to Changing the Sales Game on webtalkradio.com. I'm your host, Connie Whitman. As always, I'm thrilled that you're joining us this week. Now, as you listen to the show, I get that this whole concept of sales can become overwhelming. The new AI that's out there, right? What should I be doing? All of these pieces of the puzzle, I really, really feel you. And I understand that communication has become, I feel, even more difficult than it's ever been. So to help you on your journey, hopefully to communicate more clearly with your prospects, clients, your peers, and your colleagues at work, and even your bosses, I have my free gift for you in the show notes is my communication style assessment. Please take it and really, really read the report where it gives you you'll get two reports, one spotlighting your natural superpowers on how people are perceiving your messages. Secondary one is your lowest score, which is typically blind spots on people that we communicate that are opposite of us and usually are a little bit more difficult to navigate. So again, the link is in the show notes. It's my communication style assessment, my gift to you. I truly hope it helps you on your journey of changing your sales game. Now, my motivational quote today is by Erich Fromm, and Erich says, "Creativity requires the courage to let go of certainties." Now, I don't know about you, but I feel like competition for attention in my specific target market or my target audience is just at an all-time high. And I am consistently exploring ways to shine my light and stand out, get noticed, and be seen as, of course, the credible expert that I am, and hopefully to attract the right clients that I'm looking for in my business. If you're a salesperson, team leader, or even a small business owner looking for a unique, credible way to attract more business, publishing your existing content probably is a really good way to stay ahead of the competition and help you stand out. Now, I know that the whole thought of publishing and getting into the realm of authorship and books and all of those things are usually seen as fairly complicated and probably even a little overwhelming, but it's actually easier than you think. And we're going to talk about that today. And my guest, good friend of mine, is Cathy Davis. Now, Cathy founded Davis Creative in January of 2004 and expanded her service to include publishing in 2008. Now, the Creative Publishing Partners Division is a sought-after industry leader. Now, her team has helped over 2,000 authors become published and nearly 1,000 of those authors to become #1 international bestsellers. I am one of them. Cathy believes it's when we share our stories that we truly make a difference in the lives of others. Now, Cathy is a board member of her local National Speakers Association and co-dean of the STL, which is St. Louis, I'm going to say something, Speakers Academy. Cathy lives in St. Louis, Missouri with her husband, Jack, and their rescues, Snickerdoodle, Chewy, and AKA Chief Barking Director. I just love it. See her creativity already standing out. Please help me welcome Cathy to the show. So, Kath, thanks for being on and sharing your zone of genius with us.
Hi, Connie. Thanks for inviting me to be here.
You know I love spending time with you. So here's the deal, everyone. Cathy, actually, I met her in 2020 at the peak of COVID, and we published my book. Because what did all business owners do during COVID, Kath, right? We published a book. And through a contact, through networking, that's how I found Cathy. And within 5 minutes, I said, we got to do this. And I published my book in July, #1 international bestseller. And then we worked on 3 projects after that, all 3 international bestselling status. So you're good at what you do. The proof is in the pudding, right? Anybody that knows me, they see that on my, in my credentials, so to speak. How the heck did you learn so much about this publishing world that to me is holy smokeroonies overwhelming?
Well, as I look back over my career, I was always involved in books somehow. I came out of Bank of America. That was my corporate stint for about 12 years. I was creative director for their trust division. And the books that we prepared there were the sales pitch books that went out for the high net worth prospects for the bank. And books have always been a theme for me. And around 2008 was when I met a woman. Her name was Jan King. I don't know if you knew her. She was the CEO of Merit Publishing at the time. And we were working on a book for one of our clients. And we knew how to put the book together, make it look good, make it look great. But she was the technical side of how do I get it published? And she kind of took me under her wing. And it was also right about the time that the industry, the publishing industry in the United States was changing. So you had both Amazon starting to offer the DIY, and as well as you had traditional publishers like Ingram starting to offer the DIY for authors. And it was a, what would you call it? A crash course in learning not only the best of the traditional, but also the best of the DIY, and then merging that into what we offer now, which is team support.
And truly, Kath, it's so easy for the author working with you guys. And we were just talking about this before we started the show. We have a mutual colleague, right, who's investigating publishing and what the options are, timelines, and all that stuff. Because you have to do some, organization up front so that the project runs smoothly. But I have to tell you, throughout the entire process, your team made it easy, because I was crazy busy running my business, right, trying to figure out COVID, and then to try to publish a book and figure all of those behind the scenes. I didn't have the bandwidth. Of course, I didn't have the knowledge, and time really is a commodity, I feel, for all of us. So hiring the experts to do the job that they do well, we become penny wise, dollar foolish. And my story during COVID, my husband had his company closed, right? And I had no income because everything was live. And now COVID, the world shut down. And so I had no income coming in. And then you're at this crossroad of, I know I need to publish, right, for all of the reasons that we're going to talk about today, but where do you find the money? And at the end of the day, I spoke to my husband and I said, I need to do this. I feel long-term, as the world is now going to shift after this, not sure what it looks like, right? This was in March, probably April, May of 2020, right after the pandemic started. We really didn't know what was going on.
No.
Yet to be penny wise, dollar foolish for, we're playing the long game, you and I knew I needed to spend that money. So it's scary, but the piece of the puzzle, I think that was the scariest, aside from the money, was, what do I do? And your team really made it so freaking easy. And I promote you all the time because easy works, right? Simple works, but it also gets us published quicker and with the right trajectory to get the return on investment in time and all of those things. So that's what I really want to dig in today, because I know what you've done for me, my business, and just me personally from a confidence standpoint and all of those pieces of the puzzle. But my next question for you is, I know that you are truly convinced that sharing our stories changes changes lives out there. But why have you really landed with, this is so important, and here's why? Because I know it's like passion for you.
It truly is. And I came to realize I help a lot of women, especially, and there are a smattering of men that follow us also, and that we help project their voice and their message out to the world. But especially with women, what I've noticed is sometimes I hear them say, well, what do I have to say that anybody wants to hear? Or I wouldn't know where to start writing anything that anybody would want to read. And that almost crushes my heart when I hear that. And I realized, and not to get too deep in the psychology of this, but I do realize that as a child, I came from a family in the Deep South. Women did not speak unless spoken to first. And even though I'm no longer in that Deep South kind of environment, and we're several decades later, there was an aha moment for me, as that's where my passion stems from. That there are a lot of women who have been, even if you're not verbally told that, in those specific words, you get that just by being around your elders as a child, or being around, if you have family gatherings. And what I have seen happen, especially with our anthologies, which you and I have been involved in at least 3 together, I think,
Great. Yeah.
that it's a collection of essays, and we pick a topic and people write on that topic and submit one chapter of about 1,500 to 2,000 words. And what I've seen happen with a lot of women is they'll, reluctantly go, okay, I'll do this, because we do offer a writing coach and someone in it. And our writing coaches are more than just editors or writing coaches. Each one of our writing coaches has a background, not only in journalism, but also either we have a PhD in child development as one of our writing coaches. We have someone that has an MSW. We have another woman who has a PhD in, what is it, community relations. So they help people when you start sharing stories, sometimes, especially if they're from childhood, there's usually a hiccup. The stories that we write about in these anthologies help people tell the story where they've perhaps hit a bump in the road in life and how they've overcome that. And now they're on the other side of that bump and how much better life is and the lessons that they learned in that path. And watching some of our authors who are the timid ones come in, learn to find their voice, and to see them grow and blossom is part of that passion that feeds me and feeds my purpose on a daily basis, because they'll come into us as very timid little, who wants to read what I have to share. And then they come out and they're jumping and they're excited. And now they're speaking in front of their chambers and they are just motivated to take their life and their business to that next level. Yeah. And that's how I feel we as a team on my end, we create that positive ripple.
And you really are more than just a publishing team and, getting the book to market, and this isn't just Amazon, right? We get you guys do you have someone that you partner with to get the Amazon bestseller, but the way you do it, right? We can be in Barnes and Noble. One of your people that you recently published, right? You were telling me beforehand, mm-hmm. they were shopping at Target, I think you said, right?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Because we set each of our authors up as an independent publisher themselves. So we don't get any of the royalties. All the royalties go straight to the authors or the sponsors of the anthologies themselves. They own all the royalties. They own all the copyright. When we do that, we not only set them up on Amazon, but we also get them in the back door of Ingram Publishing. There's an independent arm of Ingram called Ingram Spark, and we affiliate them and set them up with an account there. Ingram is the magic potion. Ingram is the one that will get your book not only in Barnes & Noble online, but Barnes & Noble in the store. Doesn't guarantee that it's there, but you know how you'll walk into a bookstore and you're looking for a book and maybe you only remember the author's name or part of the title. Those people can then go behind that big computer and do a search. And because we have you registered with Ingram, they can immediately get that book for whoever's asking. Now, Ingram also just recently bought out Baker and Taylor sometime during COVID, and Baker and Taylor was another big publisher, but they were the ones that used to distribute all your books to libraries and the major big box stores. So now that Ingram has bought that division of Baker and Taylor, more and more of our books have been appearing not only in Target, but Walmart and Costco and in the Barnes and Nobles. And it's so fun to hear from authors, some of our authors who will just kind of, I'll just be curious and I'm going to wander through the book department at Walmart and see what I see, and to actually have them take photos and text those photos to me, go, look what I just saw at Walmart, and, or, whatever big box store you may have in what part of the United States where you live. So that's been kind of fun.
I can't even imagine how rewarding that is. I want to go back to something yours. I love it. I just love it. So see, having the expert you're in the right position for these new opportunities to find you. Otherwise, right, if you go in, I'm just going to do it on Amazon myself, but what are you leaving behind, right? So it goes back to that penny wise, dollar foolish. So, but here's the thing that I was cracking up as you were describing. Now, I know my stuff. I know my zone of genius. I stay in my lane. And you approached me after we published my ESP, Easy Sales Process, 7 Steps to Sales Success book, hit international, #1 international bestselling. That was in July. And I think September, you reached out to me and said, I love you. I love your vibe and everything. I'm doing this anthology called Bright Spots. That was the next one, right? That we did in September.
Correct.
And you said, it's inspiring stories of change, right? And I have my other podcast, which is Changing the Sales Game. And you said, I just think you should be part of it. And I was like, Kath, I don't have anything to say. Now, I had published a book. I was an international bestseller. And I'm going, Kath, I have nothing to say. Who wants to hear? And you laughed and you said, you know what? Just talk to the writing coach. I'm like, all right, I don't think we're going to come up with anything. I sat with Kay. I don't know if I think Kay has since retired, but I loved her. And she said, just have a conversation with me, Con. And I'm like, okay. So she asked me a couple of questions. By the end, she says, okay, I have your outline. I go, what are you talking about? And we went through, and just the way I was answering questions, she said, you do realize that when you're hit with change that you didn't choose, you have a process you go through. I'm like, I do? And she read it to me and I was like, holy smokes, I do that. She goes, that's your process. So this is the other thing why, and you mentioned the writing coach, and again, a shout out to Kay, I love her, but I had no idea until someone asks the right questions, because publishing isn't my zone of genius. Writing really isn't my zone of genius. She brought my story to life, and I was part of that, and then part of another anthology. And then, of course, Cathy convinced me to host my own book, which was called Ready, Connect, Grow, which again was a huge success, another international bestseller, where I handpicked the authors on what the messaging of the book was. And I could tell you the feedback has been outstanding. It's funny because some of the people that I was saying, I'd love for you to come and join my book. I love what you do. And I think your messaging would be important from networking and business, right? Ready, Connect, grow your business. And so they were saying to me, well, I don't have anything to say. I'm like, talk to the writing coach. I did the same thing. So it's funny when you get to experience it firsthand of I got nothing to say. And then having someone pull it from you with such clarity and thinking, wow, that was I felt my chapter in that Bright Spots was an important chapter, especially as we were coming out of COVID. So these are the kinds of things that I think mentally we don't even realize because people are like, well, you published already. I still didn't think I had anything to say, right?
Well, and as I've heard you say many a time in talking about sales and business growth, anytime you were in a down economy, that's the time for us to get up off of our tails and do something and create a little buzz or a big buzz, whichever it is. And that's one of the reasons why we offer these anthologies, is that it allows someone to tiptoe into publishing at 1/10 of the price of what it would cost to do a book all by themselves.
That's right.
And it's really 1/10 of the amount of energy that you put into it also, because you're just writing one chapter.
That's right.
But those who are willing, those business owners and leaders who are willing to step in and try something new and something different, those are the ones that they have that aha moment and go, wow. And it creates attention and buzz and brings attention to their business, so that hopefully more people are calling them and they're getting more new business.
Well, and the other thing too, at the back of each chapter in the anthology, and we actually edited my book that we did in 2020, and we put the QR code now. So it goes to my link tree, right, which has everything. But I update my link tree regularly if I'm doing a workshop. If I'm not doing a workshop, if I have a free gift, my free gifts change. So my link tree changes. Well, now we have the QR code. So even 10 years from now, it's current with what I'm doing 10 years from now. So that book used to be, they said, a calling card. I think now it's good for new business development long-term, not just it's published in July of 2020, you're done, and my information is obsolete in the back. You go in and you change it. And in this case, with my anthology, right, I said, I want to do the QR code in the link tree. And you were like, yeah, I think that's a great idea. So it stays relevant over time, because information is information. Your zone of genius is your zone of genius. That's not going to change per se, even though the marketplaces might change. Your core message, like my core process that I use when I'm hit with change, it's not going to change because it's how I'm wired, but that could inspire someone else to use those same steps, if you will, when they're thrust upon or change is thrust upon them. So it's relevant 10 years from now, it's relevant now. And that QR code with the link tree, I think, is another piece of the puzzle. So for anybody listening, if you're playing the long game, I believe this is necessary. This is a necessary piece of your business plan, or if you're a salesperson, a business of your sales plan to get published. And perhaps, like Cathy, you're saying, do the anthology, which is a fraction of the cost. But aside from that, it's a fraction of the time, and it allows you to dip your toe, and then you can publish the full enchilada later, right?
When we work with a lot of speakers and trainers and educators, and especially during COVID, that industry just kind of flattened. And one of our speakers, and we actually had done his book 3 or 4 years before COVID was over, but he's a sales trainer. So he goes out and he specializes in agricultural sales. And he learned that people will keep your book, but they'll toss your business card. So, whether you're writing, like you mentioned, one chapter that has your contact information and your QR code in it, or a full book, you want to make sure you've got that contact information at the back. And he tells the story of how, his speaking gigs had completely dried up during COVID. And he gets this phone call from someone who had to cancel. And they said, but we had to cancel your in-person event. But I noticed that because at the back of your book that I kept from when you were here 3 years ago, that you mentioned that you also do virtual. What kind of virtual?
Beautiful.
And he was still able to save that income, that piece of it. They paid him the same amount that he would have if he had flown there and done it in person.
Amazing.
But he did everything virtual because they kept his book.
Was that Sinjin? That
was but it'll come to me.
Oh, was it? Because
I see his face.
Yeah, it's so funny. Saint John, I'm Sinjin is I think how you say his name. He's from Australia, and he's specializes in agricultural sales. And he was on my show and published a book. Same thing, just a real dynamic guy.
We did not do his book, unfortunately, but same idea.
Yeah, but here's the thing: it's a calling card. But I think here's the difference of just having a Linktree account too, which I have, and that's what we used in the book. I think the chapter or the book, whichever, right, people are listening, say, no, I think I got enough for a book. I think it's important because it really helps us stand out from all the other noise in the marketplace, because everybody isn't a published author. And if you do want to go for the accolades of the #1 bestseller, #1 international bestseller, right? Everybody isn't. So, and Kath, I'll share this with you. It's funny. I'm humbled because when someone introduces me and they say, oh, 4-time international bestseller, one of which is her own personal book, blah, blah, blah. And people go, oh, how did you do that? And I look at them and I go, oh, like, it wasn't that hard. Like in my head, I'm like, it wasn't that hard, but because I have the team behind me that made it easy for me. And I'm humbled because people are so impressed by that. And I think, oh, it's still me though. But everybody doesn't have a book and everybody isn't an international or best-selling author. So I think we minimize what we do bring to the table, even though we have these very, very valuable calling cards like a book out there. So I think that ripple effect, like you said, with the 3 years and playing the long game and people reading my book, and I still get comments and people responding from reading the book that we published 3 years ago. It's heartwarming. And at the same time, it's like, wow, really? Like, really? The promotion's over. Really? People are still buying. So I think that's the other thing from a confidence builder, but I think it keeps us relevant and gets us out there with the right people, because the people that want to read our books are going to be our ideal client at the end of the day.
Well, and as you know, I used to say this about lawyers, there's at least 2 or 3 lawyers on every corner in our community. But there's at least 2 or 3 coaches or consultants on every corner also that do what you do. Sure. And the idea there is, how can we help you stand out and showcase your true inspiration of how you keep people inspired and motivated? And publishing happens to be one of those ways. And it's a way to help you stand out and stand above the crowd, because the general public, as you mentioned, they don't know the process for becoming an international best-selling author. And it seems very, what's a good word there?
Daunting, or
it's daunting. It's a huge mountain that they've never crossed before.
Sure.
Whereas, you mentioned also earlier about puzzles. I liken the whole publishing process to putting together a 10,000 piece puzzle. Yeah. We just happen to do it a little bit quicker and faster and smoother because we've done so many books. Yeah. We now know how to put the puzzle together in the most efficient manner. And sometimes you don't need all the puzzle pieces. And so we'll take those out and just make sure that you're just using the ones that you need.
Yeah, and it is customized. I because the 3 different projects, it was a little bit different in each of them. A lot of similarities, but a little bit of difference depending on, in the case where I was the sponsor of the last book, Ready, Connect, Grow. again, just a little different from the previous two because of my role within the book. So I also like that you customize and you listen to what the author's objective, because it's got to be, what is your objective with this book?
It's
And
always
then
the first question.
it's
Yeah.
always the first question, because if you're, if it's to make more money, then, and that's the next thing I want to talk about. So if it's to make more money, you're really not going to make money off we're not getting bazillion dollars like James Patterson for our book. The ripple effect of the book is where the return on the investment is, right? But garbage in, garbage out. And, with this chat GBT now, one night at dinner with my kids, we were talking, and they were shocked that I knew what chat GBT is and that I actually have it. And I was using it, trying it out, trying to play to see if it was any value to me and what I want to create. But anyway, we were talking when my younger son, he's 23, and he said, Mom, people are in an hour writing children's books. And I'm like, yeah, and how good are they? There's no soul. It's words. That's a beautiful thing. But successful books have a soul, have an essence, have a vibration because of the person writing it, not just using artificial intelligence. So that's the other thing. We're so fearful that artificial intelligence is going to replace us. Beware, right? Neo in the Matrix. It could happen, but I'm disappointed that people are just going to Amazon publishing these books. Costs nothing. It's inundating the whole system, and I believe that it's going to create good books to rise to the top even more easily than it was, maybe even a year ago.
It will, and it will change, and will change fairly rapidly, as fast as this has come upon us. Yeah. We've recently had to create, or got to create, an AI policy. So what's happening is both Amazon and Ingram now have bots that can detect if your copy is AI generated. So all those books that snuck in before this, they're going to go back and they're going to flush those out. Their guardrails are up at Amazon and Ingram. And so we created a policy to mirror that, not only mirror them, but also Ingram, it's Amazon, Ingram, and the US Government Copyright Office. So we're following the lead of those three. And basically is, yes, use Chat GPT or any of the AI for research. Yes. But make sure then that you use your own words, rewrite it. You're not going to sound like a robot. And we've actually had a couple, we usually have 3 or 4 anthologies going at one time, and we've had a couple chapters come in, and our editors are so awake and aware of this that they're going, this doesn't sound like a human. This is too robotic. And so they're kicking it back. And we now have in our contracts that, if by chance because Amazon now is going to start kicking them out. Absolutely. And say, go rewrite it. If that happens in one of our anthologies, you're affecting not only you, but the other 30 to 40 authors. And it may endanger the entire bestseller campaign. Yeah. So we've had to put it in at the very beginning and say, we're going to give you a chance to rewrite it, and we want to work with you. We're going to help you do that. But please just use it for research, because you'll get kicked out. And Amazon is even saying that they'll give you one return, so to speak. If you come back with another one, they'll close your account. Yeah. You know what? These checks and balances need to be there, because there's so much noise. Like, just can we read the good stuff, right? Like, can we just read the good stuff? So yeah, I'm glad that they're on top of that. I think that's great. I was in a networking, on Zoom, and one of the women, she was a professor, maybe even a dean of the university. And she was saying that they had to relook at everything, because the AI pulls from so many different sources that it might not be plagiarism per se, but it's not really thoughtful thinking from the student either. So the university, this was a couple of months ago, but the same thing, trying to look at ways to hold people accountable, to say, do the thinking, right? That's what you're in college for. You're spending all this money. Think instead of using the AI. AI has its place. We just have to be very cautious, I think, as we move forward. My last question, because we're out of time, but I know everybody's listening saying, yeah, sounds great. I love it. Count me in. Do I make money on this? So think of your book like a cupcake. When you sell on Amazon, Amazon's going to get the cupcake and you're going to get the sprinkles on top. That's the kind of money you're going to make. So most of us want to eat the whole cupcake. So the best way, yes, your book can be on Amazon because that's going to help your SEO, but you also want to look for ways, you want to make sure your book, you can buy it, that people can buy it from your website. If you're speaking, you want to make sure that book is at the back of the room because we're going to teach you how to buy it at cost. And then you can turn around and every book you sell is pure profit. So if you buy it, you can buy a 6x9 book for around $4.50 at about 250 pages. You're going to sell that for $12 or $15, and that's your profit. So the trick is to think outside of the box. And every time you're speaking, if you're doing a workshop, if you're doing a webinar, one that you've set up yourself, include your book. Make sure that you have sold that book so that it's included in that workshop and that webinar. That's how you're going to make your return on money. We had one author sell 600 copies of her book to A.G. Edwards. So they sent it out to all the senior executive female women. It was on leadership. She bought the book at $4 a piece. She sold it at $12 to them, and it retails for $18 on Amazon. So she made, what was it? She made at least $6, $7 per book.
Nice.
Times 600, and that's going to put some nice pennies in your pocket.
Absolutely. It's funny. I have a client and we're doing business development. I'm doing a class with them. So I signed my books, and there was about 60 of them that are going to go through the training. And as part of the program, because they're paying me obviously to do this, it was my free gift to them. And they were all so touched. And here's the funny thing. I did it truly because I thought it's another resource for them, right? It extends who I am, because I try to be very generous, especially with my client, but with everybody. You know me, I'm very generous. I love to support others. And they were so touched. A lot of them went and bought my other books. And I was like, thank you so much. That was so not my intent. And see, that's the ripple effect too. When you do from your heart, right, it comes back to you 100-fold. And so you never know what that ripple effect of the book is going to be, giving it away, charging when you speak at the, because I've done that too, where I've sold many books at a speaking event. And then they had like an author's corner where you can have all the books, and then people come and they're so excited and they give you feedback and they buy your book. And the funny thing is they buy it for friends too, which is again, just so touching for me that my content or my story or my, how I help people with sales resonates, that they like my talk, then they buy the book and then they buy it for others and then refer others. And this ripple effect from a book is outstanding. And I think, we talk about ROI, which is important. You gave some really good examples, but really, really the ROI I think is priceless when it comes to building that authority, that know, like, trust, and generating contracts or new business. If I'm a salesperson, people connecting to you, oh, you're a best-selling author, what did you write about? And it doesn't have to necessarily be sales or business, right? It could be something else, that your kid has autism and you wrote a book about that. But it's that you are intelligent enough to be able to publish a book and share and help the world in some way, right? That's the generous spirit that I think people resonate with and want to do business with. So that ROI, I think, is exponential when you look beyond the dollars of the book, but the dollars of the potential that the opportunity the book brings. So I think we get penny wise, dollar foolish, right?
People buy books because of how they make them feel. And during the pandemic, people feel they lost hope in community. So the books that are selling the most now are those that offer hope and a sense of community. Like, this author gets me. That makes them know, like, and trust you even more.
Yeah. And it was funny, Cathy, just quick feedback. When our book published in February, Ready, Connect, Grow. And so now I see people around, training, and now we're coming to life, more networking events. People are like, oh, I saw your promotion on the Ready Connect, or I bought it. Can I tell you, I love the mirror, looking in the mirror. One of my career coaches was was one of the authors, and they're reciting back to me the chapters and the people. They knew the people by name. I was taken back by that. Rather than just the book, they were digging into, Con, I love that did you read the chapter, which cracked me up? I'm like, yes, I read the chapter. But they're like, did you read the chapter with the mirror? And I'm like, yes, I did. And that career coach, it was like she was talking to me. So it's really touching when I bring these people together, and then it resonates at such a great level with, again, that ripple effect. I can't emphasize that enough.
Everyone gave me goosebumps.
Me too. It humbles me, Kat. Every time I think, I go, and they're like, yeah, like, you're good. And I go, because we don't believe the negative record player.
Mhm.
We've all got it. I've got it too. We have to keep remembering when we get those beautiful
I
compliments.
am worthy. Yeah.
I am worthy. And turn down that volume, man, to say, turn up the volume of I am worthy. And gosh, people are really resonating. This feels so good. And I think the book has the opportunity to do that. It's long lasting. Yes, meeting people. Yes, that could be long lasting where people meet you and they love you. But the book, I think it just adds a little bit more intimacy, which in a good way, not in a weird way.
Right. Right. Exactly.
So everyone, there's so much more to talk about with publishing. We didn't even get into the different types of publishing, but if you are even contemplating, oh, I think I need to do this, or I really want to do this, that voice is saying, I think I want to do it. I'm a little scared and I don't know what to do. I'm going to give you your next step. Call Cathy. Go to her, email her at Cathy@creativepublishingpartners.com. Have a conversation. I'm telling you, somebody referred me to her. And within 10 minutes, after doing all the research I had done, 10 minutes, I said, Kath, what's the next step? Let's do it. So I think and here's the other piece of the puzzle, she can help strategize so that you can get your head wrapped around the scope of the project and all the things that we just don't have the time to dig into during a 30, 35-minute episode. So again, Cathy at creativepublishingpartners.com. Go to the website, creativepublishingpartners.com. Whole bunch of good stuff on there. Additionally, you have 2 free gifts because she's generous. She's my people, Cathy. She has 2 free gifts, which I'm going to put Cathy's Linktree link so you can connect with her on LinkedIn and all of those things. And right at the top will be the 2 free gifts for us. Can you tell them what they are and how they will help them?
Sure. The first one is the top 100 marketing tips. We've curated those over the last couple of years, and we keep moving out the old ones, bringing in new ones. And that it's an easy 2-pager read, but it is top 100 tips. The second one we have talks about the topic we didn't quite get to today, which is what are your publishing options? Anywhere from do it yourself to working with a traditional publisher to hiring a team like what we do.
Yeah, that's a good one to get your head wrapped around terminology and stuff like that. So I would even do, if you're truly thinking about in the near, 1 to 2 years, even because it takes time, right? This isn't next month I'm going to publish a book. These people who say they could publish a book in a week, I question how good is it? Because there's a lot of moving parts. So again, read that free gift, go through that. And then I would reach out and have a conversation with Cathy. You'll have really good questions to ask as well, which will make your conversation even more impactful for yourself. And if this is a good option for you. And that's the other thing, Kath, if it's not a good option, you'll say to people, listen, you're doing all these other things. I would wait for that dust to settle. Let's reconvene in 6 months or 8 months. Timing might be better at the end of 2024, for instance. So again, you can help them with what they're working on and then the trajectory of a realistic timeline without killing ourselves, right? Because we still have to function in business, not just stop and write a book.
Yeah. Our goal is to do what's best for you and help you create that strategy. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's why I refer to you, because you're like me. It's customized and it's real and it's personal. And that's the only way I feel we should be doing business. So thank you for being you and just always having my back as well. I enjoy working with you. Yeah, you're truly a pleasure and a gem. And Julie Hood, man, she introduced us 3 years ago. And for her, I am forever grateful. Yeah, you've been just a wonderful colleague to me. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for inviting me to be here today. I've loved it.
I love spending time with you.
We can just talk all day.
That's a problem. I know. People are like, all right, wrap it up, Con, right?
Yeah.
Thanks, Kath. And I hope you will join me weekly as we question, build, and discover together, no matter where you are with sales, business, career. I really hope that my guests and I provide some context and inspiration for you to create the change you're looking for in whatever your role is and whatever your next role is that you're trying to step into. Again, information is a beautiful thing. Cathy and I had some good tips here and good ideas on usage from a book. Take those ideas, have the conversation, explore, do more research, whatever it is for you, take that next step. Information's beautiful, doing nothing with it. It's simply information in your brain. So again, take that next step. It could just be as simple as download the gifts and have a conversation with Cathy. Thank you again all for joining me. You've been listening to Changing the Sales Game with me, your host, Connie Whitman on webtalkradio.com. I truly wish you an inspired week and know that I am honored to have you on this journey of your sales sales or changing your business, changing your sales, changing your life. That's what I'm here for. And I hope I inspire you to make the changes you need to get you to the next level. I love you all, and I'll see you next week. Have a great one.